My name is Kayla Monroe. I was 28 years old alone in a bookstore on a Saturday afternoon when I realized the man crouching in the aisle next to me had been following me through the store for 20 minutes. I did not know what he was doing. I did not fully understand it until the security footage confirmed it later. What I knew in that moment was that something was wrong and that I needed evidence before I confronted him. So I put my phone on a bookshelf and I pressed record. Leave a comment if you have ever had a bad feeling about someone in a public place and talk yourself out of it. Keep listening because that video is the reason I am here to tell this story instead of being another case the police never solved. Saturday afternoon. I want to describe the bookstore because the physical space matters to understanding how this happened. It was a large chain store on the west side of Glendale, the kind with high ceilings and wide aisles, and sections that feel almost private when the store is not busy. I went there often. It was one of my routines, the kind of Saturday afternoon activity that requires no planning and no company, and leaves you feeling genuinely better than when you arrived. I got there around 2 in the afternoon. The parking lot was not as full as I expected for a weekend, and inside it was quieter than usual. A handful of customers spread across different sections. Soft ambient music. The particular smell of a large bookstore that is part paper and part carpet and part the particular clean of a commercial space that gets professionally cleaned nightly. I started in fiction. I always start in fiction. I was in the third aisle when I noticed him the first time. He was crouched at the low shelves to my right, angled toward the books at ankle level. Nothing alarming about this by itself. People browse low shelves. People crouch. He was a man in his late 30s, I thought, average build, ordinary clothes. Nothing about his appearance that would have registered as unusual if I had seen him in a line at a coffee shop or passing me on a sidewalk. I noted him the way you note anyone who is close to you in an otherwise empty space. Just a basic awareness of proximity. I moved on. I spent several minutes in the mystery section at the far end of the floor. I pulled 2 books off the shelf and read the jacket copy on both. I put one back and kept the other. I was genuinely absorbed in what I was doing, which is the state I come to bookstores to find, and I was not thinking about the man. Then I moved to the next section and he was there. Same position, crouched at the low shelves, looking at the spines of books near the floor, again to my right about 4 feet away. I looked at him for a moment. He did not look up. He seemed entirely focused on whatever was at ankle height on that shelf. I told myself it was coincidence. 2 people moving through a bookstore in broadly the same direction at broadly the same pace. It happened. I moved on again. I went to the back of the store where the clearance tables were. I spent a few minutes there. I picked up a paperback I had been meaning to read for 2 years. I flipped through the first few pages. I felt the presence before I saw it. There is a specific quality to the awareness of being watched. Most people have felt it. It is not dramatic, not the hair-raising sensation of horror movies. It is quieter and more specific than that. A feeling of being a subject rather than a person moving through a neutral space. A feeling of being tracked. I looked to my right. He was there, crouching, looking up at me with a smile that I could not find a word for except wrong. Not threatening in any direct way, just wrong. The smile of a person experiencing something they were not supposed to be experiencing and knowing it and not being bothered by it. I looked at him for a moment and felt my heart rate spike. Then I moved to the next aisle quickly and stood there trying to think. I could leave. That was the obvious option. Go to the register, buy the book, walk out. Never come back to this store. Move through the rest of the afternoon with the uneasy feeling of a person who saw something uncomfortable and chose not to engage with it. But I thought about the other women in the store. The woman I had passed near the entrance looking at the display table. The woman in the children's section with a small child in a carrier. If this man was doing what I believed he was doing, if he was systematically working through the store, following women from section to section, then walking out meant leaving other people behind with him, and it meant he would never be accountable for whatever this was. I thought for maybe 30 seconds. Then I took my phone open to TikTok and propped it on the edge of a shelf with the lens facing out into the aisle. I positioned it low enough to capture the floor level while I stood a few feet away, pretending to look at the books in front of me. I waited. The waiting was the worst part. I have been asked since that day whether I was scared during those 3 or 4 minutes, and the honest answer is that scared is not precise enough. It was more specific than fear. It was the hyper-aware state of a person who knows something is about to happen and whose entire body has reconfigured itself to process the environment at maximum capacity. I could hear my own breathing. I could hear the ambient music from the store speakers. I could hear someone 2 aisles over turning pages. I kept my eyes on the book in front of me and I waited. Then I felt it again. The awareness of being a subject rather than a person. Close this time. Very close. I turned my head slowly. He was next to me, crouched as before, looking up at me with the same smile, closer than before. His face was tilted upward and his eyes were on me, and the smile was wide and completely disconnected from any social context that could have made it normal. I felt the kind of fear that does not think, that acts before the thinking arrives. I yelled at him. I asked him what he was doing and why he was following me, and I was louder than I intended to be because the adrenaline was already running, and my voice did not stay as steady as I wanted it to. He told me he was just tying his shoe. His shoes were already tied. I told him I had him on video. I grabbed my phone from the shelf and I walked fast to the front of the store, and I went directly to the first employee I saw. What the video showed, I showed the employee the TikTok and her expression changed as she watched it. The footage was clear. It showed the man moving into the frame, slowly crouching down, positioning himself at floor level next to where I was standing. The angle of his face in the footage was toward my lower body. He held this position for several seconds. His face in the footage had the same expression I had seen when I turned and looked at him directly. The employee called another staff member. They both watched the footage. Then one of them went to find the man while the other stayed with me. A second employee came back about a minute later and said the man was near the back exit. They went together to block his path while someone called the police. I stood at the front of the store thinking it was over. Then I heard rapid footsteps and a crash from the back of the store. He came at me from across the floor, moving fast and direct, screaming. Something about what he had wanted, about what I had ruined. He grabbed my arm and started pulling me toward the back of the store. I want to be precise about what happened in the next 30 seconds because I was not precise about it immediately afterward. In the immediate aftermath, I could not remember the sequence clearly. What I know from the footage and from the employees' accounts is that I kicked him and that the contact was enough to cause him to adjust his grip. The two employees who had initially blocked the exit were able to reach me within about 15 seconds of him grabbing me. They pulled him off. He went to the floor. One employee sat on him until the police arrived. I sat down on the floor of the bookstore and cried. Not the performative crying of someone processing something in real time. The involuntary shaking, gasping kind that comes after the adrenaline starts to leave and the body finally understands what it was protecting you from. The police arrived 6 minutes later. They watched the footage on my phone. They watched the store's own security footage. They could see him working through the store systematically, aisle after aisle, woman after woman, crouching next to each one at floor level without touching them, without appearing to film them, without anything that would be obviously criminal to anyone who happened to glance down that aisle. He was arrested. His identity and history came out in the reporting that followed. He had a documented prior history that included prowling and peeping charges in the same geographic area. Multiple incidents, multiple locations, a pattern that had been going on for years. I posted the video. It went viral within 48 hours. What happened in the story? I want to step back from my own account and address something important before I close. This story happened in Glendale, and it is one of 3 TikTok-related incidents I want to tell you about today. My story ends with an arrest. The other 2 do not end that way. The first case involves a man named Ali Abulaban. He was a TikTok creator with nearly 1 million followers. His content was comedy and film impressions, and he had built a significant audience over several years. His wife Anna had appeared in some of his videos and had a following of her own. Their marriage had deteriorated. Anna had asked him to move out. He did not accept this. He secretly made a copy of the apartment key. He installed a monitoring application on his daughter's tablet that allowed him to listen to live audio inside the apartment from a remote location. One afternoon, while listening through the app, he heard his wife and a male friend inside the apartment. He drove to the building from the hotel he had been staying at. He used the copied key. Both Anna Abulaban and her friend Raid Baroun died in the apartment that afternoon. He was arrested the same day after calling 911 himself and reporting what he had done. He has been charged and faces a possible death penalty verdict. The monitoring application, the copied key, the call to 911 from the parking lot while his daughter sat in the car beside him. These details exist because they were documented and testified to in court. I am telling you this case because the mechanism that enabled it, a man's refusal to accept the end of a relationship, combined with technological surveillance capability that most people do not realize exists in the apps on their devices, is not unusual. It does not require a media career or a particular level of sophistication. It requires a device and a relationship that someone is not willing to let end. The second case involves a TikTok creator named Mahek Bukhari and her mother Anshreen Bukhari in Leicestershire, England. Anshreen had been in an extra-marriage relationship with a younger man for 3 years. When she attempted to end the relationship, he threatened to release explicit photographs and videos. Mahek, who had over 160,000 TikTok followers, feared the effect on her family and on her public profile. Together, they arranged a meeting with the man in a secluded location. The meeting ended in a car chase at over 100 miles per hour. The vehicle carrying the man and his friend was forced off the road. Both men died. Both women were convicted and sentenced. Mahek Bukhari was 23 years old at the time of her sentencing. I am telling you both of these cases in this context, not because they are the same story as mine, but because they are connected by TikTok and by the specific ways that social media presence complicates the decision-making of people in dangerous situations. Mahek Bukhari was afraid of what the leaked content would do to her following and her career. That fear, alongside the fear for her family, was part of what drove the decision she made. The platform she had built became a factor in a chain of events that ended in 2 deaths and a life sentence. Ali Abulaban built his identity on a platform that his wife also appeared on. He used their shared audience as a frame for a relationship that was ending. He used commercial technology to surveil the apartment they had shared. He used a copied key to enter a space she had asked him to leave. What these 3 cases have in common? My situation was survivable. I had the presence of mind to film before I confronted him. The video was evidence. The evidence was enough. Anna Abulaban did not have warning. She did not know about the monitoring app. She did not know about the copied key. There was no decision she could have made in the moments before he entered the apartment because she did not know those moments were coming. The mechanism that enabled her death was not a weapon or a dramatic plan. It was a consumer app available to anyone with a smartphone installed on a child's tablet, used to monitor an apartment in real time from a parking garage. The gap between that technology and widespread awareness of what it enables is enormous. Check the devices in your home, especially shared devices, tablets, old phones, anything that a former partner or a controlling family member might have had access to at any point. There are free applications that audit device activity and identify monitoring software. They're not difficult to use. They take about 10 minutes. The copied key is the other mechanism worth naming. A physical key, a decision made at some point probably before the relationship fully deteriorated to make a duplicate without the other person's knowledge. It does not require sophistication. It requires access to the key for a few minutes in a hardware store. If you have ended a relationship and the other person had access to your home during that relationship, change your locks. This is not a dramatic precaution. It is a reasonable one. It costs a locksmith visit in an afternoon. My bookstore situation was survivable because I made a decision to document before I confronted. Not because I had training or unusual presence of mind, because I had a phone and a few seconds to think and the specific feeling that I was going to need evidence. That feeling was right. If you are ever in a situation where something feels wrong in a public space and you cannot identify exactly why your phone is always available to you, you do not need to understand the full situation before you start recording. You just need the sense that something is off and the decision to capture it rather than dismiss it. The worst outcome of filming something that turned out to be innocent is an awkward video you delete. The best outcome is what happened to me. Evidence of a pattern that extended well beyond our single interaction in that aisle. He had been in other bookstores. There were other women. The video led the police to a person with a documented prior history that would have remained unconnected to the Glendale store if there had been nothing to tie it. I am still not entirely comfortable in large bookstores. I have been back once. I chose a different branch. I stayed for less than 30 minutes and I kept my phone accessible the whole time. I want to go back to normal. I am working toward it. But I also know that what happened that Saturday afternoon was not an isolated event in that man's history. He had been doing it for years in various forms. I just happened to be the person who pressed record. Press record. You do not need to understand the whole situation first. You just need to trust the feeling and give yourself the option of having something to show someone later. That video changed everything that happened after it.